What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with the 100th edition of Unleash, our weekly panel discussion show. And because it is our 100th edition, we thought we would bring everybody that's ever been on the panel at one time. So happy to say that all these people are good friends of mine, people that I have worked with and still work with in professional capacity in some cases. But either way, let's go ahead and get these introductions out of the way. First up, you see him on formerly my teammate on the Body Lock. Also, we did work together briefly at Sherdog. Pat Auger. Pat, what's going on, bro?
Not much, man. Currently unemployed, loving that life, doing whatever I want.
It's time for you to get a PPE loan. So
there you go. There you go.
All right, or is that PPP?
Tito can do it. Pat can do it.
All right, and of course you recognize him as my former partner on the Sherdog show, The Trenches. He is now the managing editor at mixedmartialarts.com. Also, commentator for Slap Fighting Championship, Jason Burgos, who's made up quite a step up in the world due to my tutelage. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm just glad to be here in that I'm only asked to be here to fill in when someone else cancels. So the fact that there's like 9 other people, I know at least someone else didn't cancel. So thank you for once.
I mean, you were like our 11th option. So here you go.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
You're our
I would hope it for
medal.
10th, but yeah.
And of course, we've got another former partner of mine at the Body Lock who works for every other outlet you've ever heard of, and I don't have time to address them all. He is the Strawberry Blonde Bandit, Drake Riggs. What's up?
What's up, man? I'm happy to be here for episode 100. I'm just happy to be here at all because, as Jay knows, I apparently am unforgivably problematic. So I'm happy to be here, man.
It's unforgivable. All right, you know him as the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, a firm fixture of the panel here every week, Mr. Ben Duffy. Ben, what's up?
Hey, I'm doing really well. It is really good to have so many friends on the show. I can't wait to dig into this episode.
Absolutely. And of course, you've seen him on the show many times. You know him as the founder and face of MMA On Point and currently my boss, Jason Hartley. What's up?
Not too much, man. Just recovering from staying up way too late 2 nights in a row. So UK.
You gotta
not liking the schedule. Not liking it.
European MMA life is brutal on you guys' sleep schedules for sure. And you see her on Bloody Elbow, my former co-columnist at my MMA News, Kristen King. What's up?
Hi, I'm happy to be here with you guys for the 100th episode. That is insane. I'm not happy to see someone on here that has better hair than I do. How could you guys not tell me that Drake was going to be here? I should have prepared better. It's not fair.
Drake is a beautiful man. Beautiful
Seriously.
man.
Can I say?
God damn that mustache. All right. And of course, he is the man with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers. The homie Jay Pettry. Jay, what's up?
You know, a long time ago, back when I was an undergrad, I was sitting with a bunch of friends and we were talking about random topics, just whatever we were talking about. This is back in 2005. And we sat down, we were blabbing, going back and forth, and we had people that were around us listening, and we're like, oh my God, you should record this. This is way before podcasts were a thing. And I thought to myself at that time, what if I sat down and got my friends together and we all talked about things we liked together and recorded it and put it out there? So this is the 100th episode of Unleash, and I'm really happy that all you guys were able to join us and talk our favorite face punching with us. It means a lot. And appropriately, the stat of the week, Sam Alvey. No, I'm kidding.
Ouch.
Eight is obviously the stat of the week, because this is our supersized ultra panel that we have 8 members on the panel. It is an Unleashed record. It is the largest panel in Unleashed history. I suppose that's a stat that we can now gather in my database. So I'm really happy that we're all here.
Definitely. So this should be a good time, and hopefully it doesn't get too chaotic because there are more than a few wildcard personalities that you see on the screen right now, not including myself because I'm perfectly normal and sane. So let's start off by talking about something perfectly normal and sane, and that is Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. That fight ended up being what it was. I don't even know. I didn't even know what to expect going into it. I don't even know what to say about it coming on the other side, but let's just throw this out there. Are you guys happy with the result? And I mean, first one was, did you watch it?
No, you can carry
I
on.
did. I watched the main event. That was it. But
Who else? Besides myself.
You know, as much as I was, I've been shitting on this whole thing. I actually did watch the fight because my friends were watching it and I was hanging out and they were like, "Oh, we gotta watch."
Friends
this.
were watching it.
So, imaginary friends.
I'm
right. Continue.
gonna be honest. Hey, friends are friends, right? So I
Order 3 pizzas and
yes, I wasted
what do you
my
want?
Sunday
Oh.
night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all that Mr. Hartley didn't watch. You tend to have a distaste for these things, and unlike people like me who have a distaste for these things, you actually follow through with it by not watching. I, being a low life human, I watched it, and I actually enjoyed most of the card. Certainly wasn't the main event. Certainly wasn't the best fight presented. There was Montana Love's showcase fight was an amazing fight, but the main event itself, happy with the results? No, like you guys know, I'm somewhat of a Tyron Woodley apologist. I wanted to see him floor that dude, and I think that was the general sentiment going around the MMA community, especially after disrespect thrown to Mama Woodley. That's like one of the worst things you could do. That's a cardinal sin in combat sports, is to say something disparaging or just be mean toward a mother. But Tyron Woodley's mother is like saintly in this world. She is not to be touched. She is not to be disrespected. And we all ride together if said disrespect happens. So with that in mind, like I wanted to see the Jake Paul experiment get absolutely just thrown off the rails. That's not what happened. I mean, anyone who watched it, tell me, why do you think that is? Why did Jake Paul get his hand raised last night?
Because Tyron Woodley fought the same way that he's fought the last 3 years, where he just tries to do big shots from the outside. That's it. All he had to do was land some more volume in a couple of rounds. I think he wins that fight, but he just refused. He absolutely refused to do it. So I'm with you in that I wanted to see Tyron win, and I was expecting a big punch, hopefully, at some point, but I'm not shocked that Jake Paul gets the decision because Tyron just doesn't like throwing volume. That's just not his thing, apparently.
So you're saying he's become an all-time scream at the TV fighter, in that you just waiting for him to do that thing like a John Dobson, like a Bobby Green. I mean, Bobby Green's turning on a little bit, like a Michael Johnson.
I feel like he became that fighter a long time ago, but yes, I think some of us hoped for the old Woodley of back in the day to show up, and he just never has. I think the closest we saw was Luque versus Woodley, but even then it was so quick. I'm not sure.
His last great performance was the Darren Till fight, and even that one felt like the first time in forever that this mythical, like the real Tyron Woodley showed up. I didn't watch it, but Sherdog's Lev Pizarski, who, I mean, he's a pretty solid analyst and a former amateur boxer himself. He pointed out that Woodley, I think he has the reputation of being a better boxer than maybe he was, because he stands like a really good boxer, but he got by on nothing but a right cross for a lot of his MMA career, and that just doesn't work in boxing. Like he doesn't throw a jab. Like it's not that he doesn't throw the jab enough; he doesn't throw a jab. Period. And when you've got shorter rounds, bigger gloves, just waiting for the huge right cross isn't effective.
Can I add something? That's why I wasn't disappointed. I didn't watch it. I just saw highlights. I wasn't disappointed because from most of the points of view, it seemed like a lot of people thought he was going to lose, and not like people in boxing or casual fans, like MMA fighters were mentioning that they thought Tyron would lose. I asked like Chuck Liddell like a month ago. He thought Tyron was going to lose. So it's like, I wasn't expecting him to win if people within MMA think he's not going to win. So I wasn't excited for it in that way. I was hoping for the best, that he would knock him out. But I'll look at it in a different way. For all of us that have to cover MMA and know how difficult the UFC can be, and it's there where the highway, I'm sort of enjoying something else that has like an MMA connection. It may be boxing, but it gives us something big to cover that can help all of our sites help all of our sites make money and give more opportunities to people. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Jake Paul, and I'm looking for the guy that really should beat him, but I'm not too bummed out about it, because in a way, I'm just looking at a big picture, and it better fits a lot of people to have something big that's not the UFC.
Yeah, Jason, I'm glad that you brought that point up, because as much as we can sit here and talk trash about Jake Paul, he's doing a lot of good things for combat sports right now. He's injecting a ton of money and a ton of attention into fights and fighters that probably wouldn't be seen, like that aforementioned Montana Love fight. Like, this is a guy who is pretty known in the boxing circle, but if you don't watch boxing in a hardcore fashion, you've probably never heard of him. And even if you do watch a lot of boxing, you might have heard of him, but you may not have seen any of his fights. Yet there was an arena packed like close to 17,000 people watching him, and a lot of kids, a lot of people were, impressionable fans sitting there looking at someone who otherwise wouldn't have come across their radar. Tyron Woodley talking about this is the biggest payday of his life. That's not a bad thing. And as much as, the love and pride that comes with mixed martial arts, wants to see someone get floored like Jake Paul. I mean, this is also the guy advocating for fighter pay, albeit in maybe not the most sincere fashion, but he's bringing attention to the subject. This is a guy who's giving opportunities to fighters who deserve those opportunities in their legitimate MMA careers. And I think Tyron is a very good example of someone who wasn't able to capitalize on the level of greatness that he did achieve in a monetary standpoint. I think the most frustrating part about this fight for a lot of people, and maybe I feel this a little bit myself here, we know boxing and MMA are totally different. If you've ever trained in any sort of discipline and tried to train in something else, you know that it is not a simple transition because you've hit somebody before that you can do it in this new realm. But you kind of would think a guy who has spent years and years and years in a striking discipline, in a discipline that involves striking, would have the advantage over someone who's only been doing a specialized form of striking for a few years. And this is coming from someone who, I have very, very, very loose ties to the boxing world in Los Angeles. And I've spoken to at least one professional and several other coaches and trainers and whatnot who have encountered Tyron in a Wild Card or any other the major gyms in the area, and they all have a ton of respect for him, and have all said that his boxing is pretty damn good considering what he does for his actual profession in MMA, and even what he's shown in the cage. So, man, it's kind of a disheartening thought. Like, wow, is MMA and boxing, is it that far apart that a newcomer to boxing could beat a seasoned MMA vet in a boxing match? That's an odd thought. It almost feels uncomfortable as someone who is so invested in the sport.
That makes me think, though, does that mean we need to just respect what Jake Paul is doing, in that he has all the money to get the best training possible? He seems dedicated to being pretty good. Maybe we need to start thinking maybe he's better than he is. Yeah, he isn't as experienced, but with all the training he's putting in the work, he's making tons of money, so he has more than enough reason to work hard. Maybe he's actually kind of good. Not going to be great, not going to be champion, but better than an MMA guy.
Well, you know what? This is actually like, I think he's like the boxing version of CM Punk, but gone right. With CM Punk was signed to the UFC, we were seeing an athlete. I mean, he's definitely an athlete, but in related, or I guess adjacent sort of quote unquote sport. But he had a ton of money and a ton of resources. What can you do with that time, that money, and those resources? Like, you go to Rufus Sport, one of the premier MMA gyms, and you just train for a couple years. And if that becomes your full-time job, and that is the bulk of your time and attention, man, maybe you can get really good. It didn't go very well for him, and perhaps that was a product of matchmaking. But for Jake Paul, I mean, friend of the show, Andreas Hale, has been in his camp and said, like, yeah, this guy takes it very seriously. I have a former coworker who has been a sparring partner for the Paul brothers for some time, and I've sparred that guy, and he's had his own kind of arc in the boxing world, and he's very, very legit. As someone who's been punched in the head by him quite a few times, he's very legit. So I know the work is being put in. We're seeing sort of the payoff of a singular focus with unlimited money to back you. So that says something right there.
So he's Batman, basically.
Yeah. He's Bruce
No
Wayne.
superpowers, but being rich and having all the time in the world. All right, cool.
Pretty much.
Well, like,
Pretty much.
Just to
Cyril Gahn really kind of had that moment. I mean, yes, he'd been actually kickboxing and training more than 3 years, but the window that he has developed as a fighter is really something. Like Drake, I too trashed on this event. This is nonsense. I didn't watch it. Didn't watch a second of it. There were GIFs auto playing on Twitter, and I'm like, no, get away. I don't want this. It was all on the Sherdog Slack, so I got to hear, oh my God, Woodley won a round. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to end or never end. I don't really care. But there's something to be said about the event itself. Campbell McLaren, the Combach Global promoter, has been explaining how the new Combach ratings are through the roof, and he's drawing hundreds of thousands of eyeballs. And the reason I bring this up is because he claims he's adding a new demographic, a new untapped market to the sport.
Campbell.
First of all, no, you're not. There's no such thing as a secret Spanish language mixed martial arts fandom. So we'll skip past that. However, the Paul brothers are bringing a new untapped market of the YouTube crowd, of the TikTok kids, of all of those, that community. They're coming to watch the sport because we know, I mean, this is just numbers, that the combat sports community is getting older. Just on average is getting older. The UFC fans, the average age is my age. It's not, a younger person's age. And the Paul brothers are doing something that it packed the stadium almost all the way up. We're going to probably hear that pay-per-view buys are going to be over 1 million. And that's crazy, because we have the best fighters in the world competing, like the Conor Poirier card. The Conor Poirier 3 will probably do marginally higher numbers than Paul versus Woodley. What? How is that real? Because they've tapped the market that was previously ignored. So at least they have that going for them. And those kids, their parents have a lot of money. It's because the parents are buying pay-per-views, obviously.
But is that more so relegated for the Paul brothers? Because if you guys remember, there was a social media based fight with the social gloves thing with TikTok versus YouTubers, and that bombed. That didn't do as well as they thought they did. So I'm thinking this must be exclusive only towards the Paul brothers, who have spent absolute years building their YouTube presence. And of course, they got on Disney. Then they fell out with Disney, and then they became these infamous stars on YouTube and do less than good things that most people would not do. But they have a crowd. They have the attention of a lot of these people that you are speaking of, or a lot of these kids that you're speaking of. But I don't think that translates over to the other YouTube stars or the other TikTok stars, because they tried and they failed.
Yeah, I'd agree that it's definitely the Paul brothers drawing more so than it's Jake Paul fans watching Jake Paul do things, not Jake Paul fans watching combat sports and becoming, some will, a small subset I'm sure will get into combat sports, but those numbers, they're exclusively Jake Paul, similarly to how Conor draws in MMA, that type of thing.
So I had a conversation with a member of the panel, and this is showing my age, I suppose. What do they do? No, really. I'm not, this is not a tongue-in-cheek question. What do they do? Like, what do they, I know that okay, fine, YouTube famous, whatever that means. They didn't do like a Chocolate Rain, sing a song or whatever. Like, What do they produce?
Didn't they do like prank videos or something? Was that
Yeah.
their MO for a while?
That was Logan's, I thought.
Well, they were originally the Vine guys.
Right.
And what they used to do is back in the day, they used to run a channel, I guess, called Average White Boys or something like that, and they would just dance to like hip hop. And
That's it.
it's as cringy as it sounds. What can I say? But I think the thing was they were in shape, buff dudes, and they attracted 13-year-old chicks like crazy. And I guess that was enough to get them an audience. I don't know who the fuck is actually watching their stuff. You know, it's like everybody remembers the Logan Paul dead guy in the forest incident and all that stuff. It's like, who is watching back then? I think that if I can add a little bit of a take to this, I almost think this is like what happens with pop stars. You know, for typical women in the pop industry, what do? They go right to sex the moment they turn 18. It's like, oh, Britney's going to start, you know, doing strip dances and stuff like that. And then what you see for the dudes is they either turn to comedy. It's kind of like Channing Tatum does 21 Jump Street. You know, it's like, oh, let me appeal to the guy crowd now. That's what I feel like is starting to happen here. It's like they're like thinking like, all right, my audience is aging out of our shitty content. Maybe I start to appeal to the more guy fan base because they're in their mid-20s now. They're not 16, 17 anymore. So I wonder how much of it is that. And I mean, to Jason's point earlier, they are earning my respect at least a little bit. There is something to be said for 18 months of training and do something like that. Was he actually better than Tyron Woodley? I don't think so at all. I think what happened is Tyron just didn't do anything. And when he did something, it only happened in 1 or 2 rounds. And the rest of the time it was just kind of like,
I mean, are we talking about the same Tyron Woodley here? That really sounds out of character to me.
Shocking.
That's
Absolutely shocking that Woodley didn't throw a punch. Like, you know what? I'm probably sure that I've said this at some point on this show before, but my last live event assignment for SureDog was Logan Paul versus KSI 2, and being in the Staples Center for that and seeing like this whole crowd of like 11 and 12-year-olds whose like clueless fathers were dragged to this event, had no idea what was going on. And like there were legitimate boxing matches on the card. If I'm remembering this correctly, Devin Haney had a really good fight on that card, and like nobody paid attention. Like nobody in the crowd was watching this. It was just like me, and I think Juice was with me there, and like Matt Hunter. I think we were sitting together. And this is it. We were the only ones watching this and caring about what was going on. And then, like, you know, guys who were like YouTube or TikTok stars or something will walk past and the crowd will go nuts at these random points. What we saw Sunday, though, were like everyone was paying attention, it seemed like, to the actual fights leading up to the main event, and actually responding to the action of the main event as opposed to just the celebrity presence. So I guess that's progress. I don't think it's going to translate into this new wave of combat sports fans, but it's putting money in pockets right now. And as Pat said, maybe a small subset will cross over into being legitimate combat sports fans and whatever. I mean, that's better than what's going on in a lot of other avenues in whatever it is that we do for our, I don't know, because this, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Like we cover a circus, so this is a full-on circus. But all right, so last thing before we wrap this up, I got to get this off my chest, man. Woodley begging for that rematch at the end was,
wait, what?
I'm telling you, Woodley begging for a rematch after this and trying to state his case was one of the sadder sights that I've ever seen in my time covering combat sports.
Listen, how much money? He made a lot of money. If he made like 20 million, I'd be begging too. So I don't feel bad for him at all. Beg away. Get that bag, Tyron. Get it.
Hey, you know what, Jason? You're probably right. And I actually had this same conversation last night with Matt Wells. We were like texting each other the whole time during that fight. And he said the same thing. But I, being, you know, raw with emotion right now, am not thinking clearly. So it hurt my soul to see that. And Tyron, don't get the tattoo. If you get the tattoo, he is going to back out of this rematch. You're going to be out there looking like a clown with Jake Paul on your body. Come on now.
Well, the problem was he was training with Sam Alvey before it, and that's why he was so mad about the scorecard. That was it.
Full circle.
Oh,
What
wow.
does the tattoo have to do with the rematch?
He has to get a tattoo that says "I love Jake Paul."
Yeah,
And then
and
he
that's
get
the only
the
way
rematch.
Paul's going to give him a rematch. So
But I
Wait.
thought that was weird.
You
'cause
know
I
he's
thought
going to
the
get the tattoo, and then he's going to say no, right?
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Oh my God!
I thought the tattoo was regardless because it was for the loser, right? So how does this tie into getting the rematch? And by the way, I'm kind of upset about the tattoo not even happening because you have one of the most talented artists out of Miami, and maybe I'm biased because I'm from here, and you fly her all the way out there, and she doesn't even do what she's supposed to do. I'm upset.
My head is exploding with what you're explaining right now. That they
And-
flew a
and-
tattoo artist to tattoo Tyron Woodley, and then
Like immediately after the fight. That's
Yeah,
how-
like supposed to be sent into the locker room to tattoo the loser after the fight. But I mean, we're giving this way too much time and attention, and I apologize. And I see my man Jason Hartley, who will be proclaimed Jason the Great simply to spite Jason Burgos, also known as Jason the Lesser. He looked really bored while we're talking about this because he has such an active disdain for this, and I respect his conviction. So we're going to kick it to you to start off the MMA portion, the legitimate portion of the show. And we're going to start off with a swing or miss. And Edson Barboza got KO'd this weekend by GIGA CHIKADZE. Jason, swing or missing on the idea that that win makes CHIKADZE prime time ready at the featherweight division rankings. What do you say?
I didn't watch that either. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I think he is ready for at least, a step up. I mean, Josh Emmett is a name that's been on the shelf for a while with some crazy knockout power. That's a hell of a barn burner. And if he can make it through a fight like that, then he's basically in the top 5 because I think Emmett is 7. So I think that's the step up. Let's move up a couple places. I think he's ranked like number 9 right now. But yeah, he's absolutely ready for prime time, and he's only looked better the more and more he's fought in the UFC.
All right. And anyone want to push back on that idea? Do you think it's still a bit much for CHIKADZE?
I like Emmett and maybe like Arnold Allen a little bit. My biggest concern with CHIKADZE is if you watch the Jamal Emmers fight, I'm still a little questionable on how he's going to do with somebody who goes wrestling heavy, right? Like that's the only thing. His striking wise, I think he's going to just blaze through the division. It's going to be great. And luckily, a lot of the top featherweights are all pretty striking heavy. So it's not necessarily unrealistic to give him an Emmett or, somebody to launch him up into the top 5. But I still have my concerns there because rewatching that Emmers fight, it's, I wonder how he's going to do against some of these guys that, Emmett could easily just, I forget who it was, but early on in his UFC career, he just went full takedowns, got like 8 takedowns on somebody and just went pure wrestling. Like I could see that playing out that way, just neutralizing CHIKADZE that way. So that's my only reservation. Otherwise, yeah, he looks fantastic.
I'll add on to it. But I'm all in on CHIKADZE. I'm for him getting pushed. How about this idea? You guys may not like it. What about CHIKADZE Calvin Kattar? I think that'd be a sick fight, and I'd be all for that fight. And based on how the UFC does it, we've all complained about how they don't slow burn people anymore. They're sort of slow burning him, but now what they do now is they slow burn and avoid the wrestler test that Patrick just mentioned. That's the ultimate test, the wrestler grappler test in MMA. They're doing it with Sean O'Malley. They do it with a lot of people. I think they're probably going to do it with Giga. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets Calvin, and I think they're going to rocket shoot him all the way to the top until he loses.
They're a very good point there about like not having the wrestler test, but really you look at the rankings for featherweight, not a whole lot of wrestling centric fighters there. Josh Emmett is probably the only one who, and Dan Ige, I know he's a pretty underrated guy on the ground as well. Korean Zombie, he doesn't get enough love for his grappling prowess, but that's certainly not his go-to. And Brian Ortega is fighting for the title. And by the way, Brian Ortega isn't much of a wrestler himself. He's more of an opportunistic submission artist. So I think Giga could really get to title contention here without having to fight a wrestler, and that's without any sort of tricky matchmaking. If you put him against a Korean Zombie, despite what Korean Zombie is capable of doing on the ground, do you expect anything other than a back and forth kickboxing match? Like I don't think anyone in their right mind expects something different. If you put him against Dan Ige, despite what Ige is capable of on the ground, he's a knucklehead and he likes to throw hands. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be some knucklehead shit that goes down. So I really think that Giga is this is prime time for Giga to make waves in the featherweight division without coming across any real stylistic challenges. The fact that he got through Barboza the way he did, when we did our show last week making our predictions, my thing was saying that Barboza was going to have the speed advantage. He was a superior athlete, and Giga, who has shown a lot of speed in the past, so has been more of a timing guy. He's been a guy who's going to land that perfect shot at the perfect time and not necessarily just outflash you with the speed. And even you look at his kicks. I mean, this is a guy with I believe a karate background before he got into kickboxing. So his style of kicks are more speed than power anyway. So it was like, okay, his speed was coming from a place of variation in technique, not necessarily being athletically superior. He put on an athletically superior performance to Edson Barboza, and damn, that if that doesn't say you're ready for the top of the division, I don't know what else does.
Yeah, which is why it was so smart for him to just immediately cut off the rest of the division by saying, listen, either I'm going to fight or be a replacement for Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski, or I do something else with Max Holloway. I think those are excellent matchups. It seems to be that he's having the Khamzat Chimaev problem where he claims everyone is turning him down. No one wants to fight him. In his post-fight press conference, he said that a lot of the people in the top 10 of the division turned him down. And I think he may have thrown a little bit of shade to Yair Rodriguez, which is another fantastic fight that would absolutely blow my mind. But as we know, Rodriguez is matched up with Holloway. So even if he gets like the winner of that fight, that'd be insane. But it looks like Giga is just on the fast track to title contention, and he's not playing any games. He doesn't want to entertain anybody else outside of the top 10, maybe top 3. So I think he's ready, and it's not an insane way to think that like maybe by next year he's going to fight for the championship.
Yeah, certainly not out the realm of possibility. Jay,
I don't like what he did to call out either replacement and title fight or Max. Max is booked against Rodriguez in November, so obviously that's not happening. Obviously he's not fighting for the title over the other 10 names above him. I don't like that he cut off all the rest of the fighters in the division, because I don't feel like he's earned that. The second round, I expected Edson Barboza was going to take over and beat him. And when the second round happened and Barboza started beating him to the punch and Giga wasn't able to get away, I thought, okay, here the tide's turning. So he impressed me by turning it up in the third round. But I don't want to see that. I would rather the slow burn. Who is he beaten? He knocked out Cub Swanson. Very impressive. Cub Swanson's 97 years old. And he knocked out Edson Barboza. Respectable win. I can't knock that at all. I want to see him fight Bryce Mitchell. I want to see him fight somebody that's looking to work their way up. I want a Joe Silva and matchmaking scheme. I am a purist. I am an optimist. Jed Meshew hates me for it, I suppose. That I want some sort of a logical thing where winners will fight winners, because featherweight's the division that is so log jammed with guys on win streaks. It wouldn't hurt. Arnold Allen, crazy win streak. Bryce Mitchell, long win streak. Giga CHIKADZE, long win streak. Movsar Evloev is 15-0 now, something like that. I feel like this is the wheat for the chaff separation moment, and beating Barboza vaults you into that not that conversation, but into that top 10 range. And I think there needs more. What do you got, Burgos?
I got a question for you though. If you were Giga CHIKADZE, would you call for Bryce Mitchell or would you call for Max Holloway?
I wouldn't. Honestly, I would have called for a reasonable big name that's available that I could possibly fight.
Yeah, and it's a business. Bryce Mitchell's a dangerous fight. Zombie would make sense.
I agree. I'm not arguing the point at all that you don't call out somebody that's now ranked below you. You knocked out number 9. Don't call out number 11. But in terms of trajectory, and you don't call it Arnold Allen. I can barely say his name. It's a tongue twister. But you don't want that. You want a sizzle. You want a headliner. If you knocked out Barboza in the main event of an event no one really cared about, except for your fight, like that was the narrative of this whole weekend was, hey, Kevin Lee's fighting at 170. Hey, Sam Alvey's still on the roster. Hey, did you know there was a tough season? Oh my God, Edson Barboza, Giga Chikadze. Like that was the narrative was, okay, screw all the rest of that noise. This fight is must watch. Like even John Anik was having a hard time selling the rest of the card and then just said, but look at that fight. Oh my God. So I think that is a trajectory that he could build on, which is why I think a Korean Zombie who beat Dan Ige, so he's trying to get back up there, winners fight winners, so to speak, and it's an action-packed fight, and it's a headliner. UFC is having a real hard time lately headlining fight night cards. So CHIKADZE versus Korean Zombie in like December 4th or something like that, sign me up.
Yeah, I would be very, very happy to to see that matchup. All right, so let's keep things pushing because the event Saturday was also the finale for the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter. Quick question: who here watched any episode of the last season?
Show of hands.
I did. I watched the whole season.
Oh wow!
I like The Ultimate Fighter. I don't care if that's controversial to say at this current time. I liked The Ultimate Fighter. I really enjoyed this season. I was invested in a lot of these fighters' stories. I was upset when one of them wasn't able to make the finale in Trayshawn Gore. Maybe that's because I spent more time researching him as I did a profile on him before the season even started. I was invested the entire time. I can admit, I will give you guys this. Tough has not been good in the last few years, but I'll be damned if I didn't miss it. I missed it, and I really enjoyed it. So, yes, I watched Tough.
Show of hands for everyone who thinks that Zuffa has a check on the way to Kristen's house.
I kept waiting for her to say no. I'm just kidding.
Let me update my routing number. Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, it's either that or like, is that a gun coming into like the side of your shot there?
They just
Dana
like
in the league,
that clip from when Dana did the cameo on the TV show where he shot the guy. Or I don't know, or T.I. forcing you to put a body part inside of a raccoon cage.
No.
Oh God, who put that on the timeline? And I didn't know that existed until last week, and I just wanted to unsee it. But anyway, this last season of The Ultimate Fighter, much like every season of The Ultimate Fighter since when Chael and John Jones coached against each other, I didn't watch a singular moment of. I didn't miss a shred of it, and yeah, I watched fights from the finale. That's it. That's all I cared about. Jason, did I miss anything?
There's two of us
Jason,
here. You got to clarify
Jason,
which one.
Jason the Greater. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I did watch. I got really far behind, and I just kind of in a couple of days watched, I think, the first 4 episodes, and I mean, it was decent, but it was just the same show it was, and so I don't necessarily take issue with any of the fighters in particular. I just think it's the format for me that's just gone stale. I've always kind of hated reality TV anyway, so there's just a bit of that. And we've got the Contender series coming back and things like that. I think it's better for the fighters because all they have to do is essentially fight once. That's if you win, but I just don't think you have to be in a house with these dudes for all this amount of time and just kind of hate your life the entire time you're there, lose, and then your career's already over kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just kind of I think that's what it comes down to. There were some decent fights on the show, but I'm just tired of the format more than anything. So I don't think you missed anything.
Yeah, I'm with you on as far as the format. Like the idea that you have to cut yourself off from your life and stay in a house with a bunch of other idiots. And there's going to be the guy who's drinking too much and becomes a jackass. There's going to be someone who's going to pee on your pillow. There's going to be
hey, it was a spritz. It was a spritz.
It's just a spritz. Yeah. So there's going to be someone jerking off in the shower. It's going to be so many just horrible, disgusting things going on, and just so many annoying things that don't translate to fighting at all. The environment itself is so artificial. I'd much rather see these fighters under their regular coaches, performing like they normally do, eating the foods they normally do, cutting weight the way they normally do, and then stepping in there as their 100% self, like whatever that translates to. Some people get in the Ultimate Fighter environment and thrive because for whatever reason, but typically we're seeing a lesser version of everyone. Give me the guys who are just themselves and they step in there and fight. I don't need this at all. Like I don't need this one bit. Drake, do you need it? You want it?
So the thing for me is like the first season of Tough that I saw was season 10, which a lot of people started there, right? If you didn't catch before that. And I watched every single season up until 28 was the one before this one, excluding some of the other, Brazil and, those ones. But the thing about this one was like, I don't know, after the break and, just consuming so much MMA in my life now, I like to have a little bit of an outside life sometimes. And with this show and this season, which already kind of frustrated me because of how it pushed back Volkanovski and Ortega from the jump. And I didn't really think they'd be too interesting to watch in their coaching and all that. And Ortega's guys didn't even make it to the finals, right? So didn't really matter on his end. But I do feel like I missed some really fun fights, particularly Ricky Turcios's, which he seems to be awesome. And that fight was incredible. But yeah, at this point, man, I don't really need it either. I still like the idea of Tough, but depending on who the coaches are, I think for me is the only thing that'll bring me back to it at this point.
Definitely. I agree with that. Jason, looks like Jason the Lesser. Sorry. What do you have to say?
You're doing a great job at hosting. You don't know what Jason.
Thank you.
But I would say that, it's like the format, like we're in a brand era, branding's everything. They remake everything. The format is like 2005. Like the fact that we're in a house where you're not using your cell phone and internet, all this, it's ridiculous. 2021. What are we doing here? I mean, that's all they have to do. The brand is strong. You can just change the format. Do something like, two guys got to go into an escape room, and the first one to get out, he wins the fight. He moves on, or they go into the cube or some weird shit. Something. Just give me something new format wise. This is just so played out. I've seen it before. That's the thing. If it exists, but just change the format. Give me the cube or something, please.
Those all just sound like ideas rejected by PFL.
That's why they went with a smart cage, because that was the best swimmer of all of them.
Yeah. That was actually the entire first season of Fight Master on Spike. It was pretty great.
Shout out Joe Riggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm always like whenever I think of the whole environment of Tough, I think of like Diddy sending the band out to get cheesecake in the middle of the night, and they had to walk across like 3 boroughs in New York.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
That's
it's like
format we need.
It's like if you walk to get cheesecake across like Brooklyn and Manhattan, does that make you a better rapper? No, it doesn't.
But it was funny. I read the Chappelle version. They should go get like Cambodian breast milk.
Cambodian breast milk. That's Cambodian breast milk, the official sponsor of the Walkout Network. All right, so let's keep things pushing here. So this is now the time. If you've got a sophisticated palate, go ahead and break out your salt, break out your cracked paper, break out your paprika, whatever seasonings you can think of, and it's time to ask the age-old question: how's taste my crow? Anyone on this panel, you tell me what result had you eating crow this weekend?
The Chirico getting flatlined. I was like, all he's got to do is take him down. He's done it before. He's rangy enough. He should be able to do this. Should be fine. He's been training for a camp. Hassan, if he doesn't knock you out in the first like 30 seconds, he generally loses. And then he got knocked out in the first 17 seconds, and it was pretty rough. So
yeah, that was definitely a bit of a surprise, and I actually just had a terrible weekend in terms of expectations, so that one is on my list of things. But I also was very surprised that Brendan Loughnane did not make it to the finals. I mean, of course, a very tough opponent who earned that Movlid, if I'm going to get the name right, maybe not. But Loughnane, I thought that he was a shoe in there. And then in Invicta, Lisa Verzosa getting just styled on by Taneisha Tennant. That was something I definitely didn't expect just from looking at both of their careers beforehand. And of course, Tennant had the questionable in some people's eyes loss to Danielle Wolf on Contender Series. So that might have been the biggest one for me, considering it was a shutout. So yeah, a lot went wrong for me in terms of expectations this week.
Was anybody else finally off the Kevin Lee belief train. I'm done. I'm done believing in Kevin Lee. This is it. I'm over. I'm done.
I was just about to go there because that was my biggest crow moment. Like, I'm somewhat of a Kevin Lee apologist as well. So this was a rough weekend for me. I mean, definitely thought that Kevin Lee at his best is by far one of the best guys at 155. I mean, welterweight, not so much, but he's still like such a great fighter when he is firing on all cylinders. And I thought like a short notice replacement against a guy who's primarily just like a brawler type striker. Like, man, this is Kevin Lee all day. This is his fight to go ahead and take by the horns here, but he just had one of those signature like mental lapse moments. And I'm going back to previous things I've said about him in the past, man. The death of Robert Follis has greatly altered the course of his career. And this was a guy I originally picked to beat Conor McGregor. I thought he would beat Conor McGregor and dethrone him, and then he'd end up losing to Khabib, and then that's how the lightweight division was going to play out. Things obviously did not turn out anywhere near that, and Kevin Lee has not been able to get off in a consistent manner. So that's what I'm eating crow about this weekend. Anyone else want to share their crow moments?
I got one for you. So on the Loughnane side of things, so me and PT worked up a little ditty on the extras channel for this one. Put in all this effort. He came out with all these amazing quotes about how it was like a rocky story in his life, and I know he'd said that to other people, so it wasn't necessarily like an exclusive quote. But put in all this effort with music and building it up all throughout it, and created a whole new thumbnail for it. Spent a fuck ton of time, and here we are. He won 29-28, and everyone thinks that's a joke. On one judge's scorecard, everybody's just like, how did that even happen? It was just a blowout, no Rocky story. So there we go. Apollo Creed, more like it. He died. Right. That's a spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen Rocky. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Single guys here. Hartley is more like heartless.
Man,
it's like Jason Covington. Yeah. So I'm gotta throw this question out there. I asked this on Twitter. What scorecard was worse over this past weekend? Was it the Loughnane 29-28, or was it the Woodley 77-75?
Oh, it's the Woodley one, I feel like, because there's so many rounds given to Woodley that weren't there. Like, there's one round given to Loughnane. There's so many rounds given. Yeah.
Hey, listen, you guys. Woodley, he might have won on Rising Rules, yo.
Rising Rules don't apply to boxing, Drake.
I'm just saying.
Unless tension is fighting. So, all right. I guess if there's no more crow to share,
I'm just taking a bite out of Sal Malvi and saying he hasn't won in 7 fights. He's getting an 8th try, and I believe in him still.
Yeah, you believe in a fighter who gets paid bargain basement prices, maintaining his spot on the roster. You keep talking that trash one day, Sam. That union isn't necessary, so just keep that in mind. All right, so let's keep things pushing here. We're going to move on to the greatest title segment in all of media history, and that is I'm Not Surprised, Mister Falcons. If one of our magnificent 8 people on the panel have something that surprised them or ironically did not over the past week, it's time to share. Kristen, looks like you got something to say.
I guess I'll kick things off, and much to the chagrin of Jason the Great, I have to say, and this is probably in a roundabout way, I'm surprised at myself that I let pre-fight Woodley adjust my way of thinking for fight night Woodley, because I was so sold on the way that he had just got Jake in these pre-fight interviews. I mean, the one with Ariel Helwani, I was like, oh my God, that's great. This is great. No one has ever matched and I use this term really loosely, wit of Jake Paul when it comes to producing these types of content for a fight. And so even though some of the comments from Tyron Woodley was kind of low-hanging fruit, I mean, the obviously overused but extremely effective D's nuts jokes. Come on. And that right there, I was like, yeah, Tyron Woodley's going to do it. Technical knockout by 5th round. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I probably should have listened to you, and I talked about it. We know exactly what type of fighter Tyron Woodley was going to be. And I just let myself get cajoled into thinking he was actually going to pull off what would have been a great upset. So I'm surprised at myself for being so ridiculous and thinking with my heart and not my head.
It's tough out here in these streets.
I mean,
I feel you.
I for some reason I took a recently announced kind of trying to fly under the radar matchup personally, and I shouldn't have, because I know the UFC. I think even on this show we said, well, we know what's going to happen, but it shouldn't happen, and of course it happened. And by that I mean that Rose Namajunas has her next title defense, and it's not who a lot of the community wanted it to be against. I mean, I am very famous. I'm not very famous. I'm famously having said Carla Esparza is going to beat Rose Namajunas and start the entire strawweight title picture all over again, because Esparza will fight Jędrzejczyk and she will win, and then we'll move on to that way. But instead, Weili Zhang got booted in the head, and she's getting an instant rematch with. Did she ever successfully defend her title?
Against Joanna.
She did against JJ, right? That was a defense.
Yeah.
And that doesn't merit instant rematch for me. To be like, oh boy, I sure can't wait to see how this is going to come out differently. And the reason I looked at this and said, there's no way they're going to do Rose dirty again. Because they did Rose dirty when she knocked out Jędrzejczyk. Sparked her in the first round. No controversy, no fluke. Bang, done, you're out of there. And Jędrzejczyk got a rematch and she got styled on for 5 rounds. I could see that happening again. I just hate the idea that a title challenger has to beat the champion twice to become the champion. And so I guess, like Kristen King, I'm surprised at myself for being bamboozled to believing that there's some right in the world.
But we built like this 10-acre gym in China.
Oh my God.
We've got to give Weili another chance, please.
We doubled up our media rights deals when Weili won the belt, is the correct answer. That's why they're doing it again. They straight up.
I got a question too. What's the bigger influence? Is it the China thing, like you guys mentioned, which I think it is, or is it the fact that the same agent reps both of them? Did that come into play at all? Did Zhang take a discount or something?
It's 100% the Chinese market.
Yeah.
The amount of deals they were able to, they made so much money. It's all off of Weili.
It's how she got the title shot in the first place. That she, while you had a good case for giving her a title shot, there were other worthy people who, from a business standpoint, made a lot of sense too, like Michelle Waterson at the time. But they went with the China direction.
She didn't have a good case. She'd beat Tisha Torres. That was it.
That's what it takes.
And then she got a title shot.
Win streaks in the division at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, and at the top 5 or top 10 of the division. That's the only argument really to weasel her in. But I would have given it to Michelle Waterson at that time, if I were in charge of anything, for several reasons, not just competitive reasons. So
yeah, getting the title shot, I would just say being the challenger and getting the title shot in China, in your home, like that in it of itself,
silver
speaks.
platter and then some.
Yeah,
definitely.
So does that mean that the next? Oh wait, no, it's in MSG, right? No.
Yeah,
it's in MSG. That's too bad. I would have liked it in like Wisconsin or something for Rufus Port background. But put it in Milwaukee.
Oh my God.
I think the bigger issue is the UFC signed an exclusive deal with TikTok. So there you go.
There you go.
I wonder, does the I haven't been to an event in a while. Does that girl who works for like the UFC's TikTok account, is she still there, like press row, like asking predictions?
That was not a real thing. It was just like a little joke, because she's probably one of the most popular stars on TikTok. But I don't think that was
there was a girl who I'm pretty sure she works for the UFC, because at like 3 events, she would come up to me in press row and ask for my prediction that they put on the TikTok account.
Oh, I know.
So I don't know if she's still there or not, because I don't have TikTok. So
shit, they never asked me for my predictions.
I mean, I'm me, you know.
I see how this is.
Sexy is the sexy does, man.
Okay,
What can I say?
enough.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you.
You know what I will say about? Sorry, just to completely get back to the topic about the. I'm not surprised, Mister Falcons. I know, right? Who does that? This
About
guy.
TikTok, yeah.
I was completely surprised that PFL decided to delay their first fight on the main card for an hour for a high school football game. College, I will give you some leeway, but good God, that was 41-14. That was the score of the high school football game. Yep.
Two
Yes,
local Georgia schools.
But
Was
apparently,
it like some special prospect or something on the team? It was supposed to be like the NFL LeBron or something like that?
there must just be a really big subset of PFL watchers in those Georgia high schools that just needed to watch the football game first. I don't. They must be hurting for money or something. That was crazy.
If you get bumped due to high school football, you are not ready for pay-per-view. Just throwing that out there.
And a blowout. Like, it's not a close game where it's like overtime back forth. It's 41-14.
It wasn't like the finale of Friday Night Lights or nothing like that. It was just
no.
Okay. All right. Well,
that's too bad because ESPN's having trouble with high school football. Did you guys see in the news that fictional high school that was put on ESPN, North Sycamore or something like that? There was a fake high school that has made it onto ESPN like this weekend. I think somehow the team played and was aired on Friday and Sunday. So that is also strange,
the school doesn't exist, but they have a team. What?
that school is faker than. I'm trying to think of something clever.
So it's just like a mixtape of all the high schools in the area or something, and
we don't know.
Just the JV squads of two high school teams say they're from high school,
and that would have beaten PFL in ratings. Anyways, carry on.
Oh well, all right. Well, unless there's any other major surprises we want to share, we'll keep things pushing. Anyone? Floor's yours.
Just be quick. Oh, go
ahead, Jason.
I agree with pretty much everything Jay was saying about the Whaley and the Rose stuff. I mean, the story for the Carla rematch wrote itself, man. But you summed it up well. I am surprised though how awesome 268 overall looks though. Like, despite the fact that the Whaley rematch shouldn't happen right now, I'm still very much excited to see that fight hopefully go on longer than it did the first time. And just that card at the moment, which isn't even done yet, it's looking a little bit like an all-timer on paper to me. I mean, some good fights on that card, man.
I was just looking at there are 6 headliner type bouts that could be put on any card. Duffy, go ahead, please.
Well, I'm just saying it's a good enough card that it's going to survive the Gaethje Chandler fight getting pulled because Chandler's unvaccinated.
Don't you dare!
His unvaccinated ass is not going to get cleared to fight in New York, and the card will still be fine.
Well, Jason the Greater, it looked like you want to share something before we.
Yeah, I was just going to add in Meerschaert's chin. I mean, it just makes you wonder what the fuck is in Chimaev's gloves to have knocked him out with one punch. And Muradov was on a 13-fight win streak, so that was already an upset in itself. And then for him to take so much punishment and survive all that and actually get the win, I thought that was pretty unbelievable and extremely exciting, but not something I think anybody expected.
Yeah, rumor has it that Chimaev, he had long haul COVID in his hand wraps for the first fight. So really crazy stuff there. All right, so let's keep things pushing here. We're going to move on to deep cuts, and this is where we're going to give each person 30 seconds to answer. What the hell is some crazy ad just popped up on my phone? I accidentally hit the IMDb app, and this weird commercial just came on. All right, so let me bring my clock back.
IMDb app? What do you have?
Yeah.
After I watch a movie, I look up the trivia. What can I say? I'm kind of a dork.
What did you just watch?
Oh, nothing. It just the app just popped up. I accidentally hit the app.
He watched Drumline. You can admit it. We're all friends here.
Drumline. All right, so I need to hold my daughter.
Watching Aquaman. I love that movie.
I don't need to hold my daughter. I was being given another instruction off camera here. All right, so you're gonna have 30 seconds, and the first question is for you, Mr. Hartley. What do you consider clickbait in our industry? And oh my God, why is the ground camera app such a 30 seconds?
You know what?
Man.
Yeah.
Can I go on for a long time?
You can. They won't stop you. You can. It'll be
It depends. It depends. It depends on the mood I'm in. So
We'll title the segment 5 times Jason Hartley talked too long.
All right, man. You got 30 seconds. What do you consider clickbait in our industry, and how should it be combated?
Not what the fuck anybody thinks it is. It's super annoying because I'm seeing it everywhere for, people covering Woodley versus Jake Paul. That's not clickbait. That's serving an audience. And I'm tired of people saying things like that or accusing Fighting Junkie, SureDog, whatever website you want to put in there. It's annoying as hell. What clickbait is actually misleading somebody or lying to them about what the contents of that are. If you don't like what's in there and you think it's salacious, whatever the hell you think it is, that's different. You can disagree with what's being covered, but that doesn't make it clickbait.
That was a nice, efficient explanation right there. We're looking forward to the long form that will be hitting MMA on point soon. Very well done, sir. All right, next up is
Will you be narrating?
Well, I gave up on it.
Oh, I meant
it was
Mr.
too much of a
Walker.
rant. It was disorganized. It ended up being like 12 minutes of like a rant. I wrote the whole thing, scripted it out, all recorded, everything, started editing. I was like, this sucks.
Shoot me the link. I'm interested.
Hey, Jason, hit me up, man. I'll collab with you on that. We might be able to organize it and do something.
All right. I'm on board.
All right, cool. So next, let's move on to my former partner at the Body Lock, Pat Auger. Pat, let me know, are any major promotions in danger of failing, or are we on the way towards a realignment? You have 30 seconds.
Depends on what you classify as a major promotion, but the PFL and One Championship are always in danger of failing. They're startups. I've said it many times. They rely on so much money from investors. PFL, the fact that they felt the need to wait for an hour for a high school football game does not bode well. Their rating wise as well. Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say they're the biggest in danger. I don't think there's a major realignment happening yet, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Combate kind of starts to become a bigger deal, despite what Jay said earlier. So.
Oh, someone is getting added to Campbell's Christmas card list. All right. Good job there, Pat. Kristen, you are up next. What is the most memorable, gruesome combat sports injury that you have ever witnessed?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to give you one from boxing, actually. This one happened last year. A 21-year-old boxer out of Australia by the name of Benjamin Hussein took a really hard right hand in the second round of his fight and knocked his mouthpiece out. His mouth started bleeding. Pretty normal when you get hit in the face, right? But he then proceeded to get drugged for the next 4 rounds. And what he didn't know was that his jaw was actually completely broken. So by the time that they found out that his jaw was broken, they obviously stopped the fight. And at that moment, his jaw was just kind of down here, just jiggling a little bit. And he actually uploaded, I'm sorry, I'm going over time. It's
Please continue.
He actually uploaded a Instagram video of himself attempting to talk, but all that happened was just this jiggle of the left side of his face. So yeah, extensive surgery obviously required, and fortunately he did return. He didn't need more than a year to recover, and he just recently, I would say last month, got a knockout victory in his return to the boxing ring. So happy ending, but disgusting.
That was one that I
write
forgot
about something
happened.
else for a living. I'm not cut out for this business.
Makes me want to cover video games now, like that. Like I remember when that happened, and you were actually the first person I thought of when I saw that. So I'm glad that you were able to retell that story. I know, right?
I literally thought you were about to say, and he just returned this year and had his jaw broken again.
Oh my God!
Literally thought you were about to say.
Now he has titanium.
Turns out it didn't heal all the way.
Yes.
Yeah, he looked like Two-Face when he was in the hospital in Dark Knight, and he was like, yeah, that's what he looked like. All right, all right, Drake. The next question. Next one is on you. Can Asian MMA come back from the pandemic with how hard some of these organizations have been hit?
I would argue that they don't need to come back. They've been here, and of course, there have been the international fighters haven't been able to make it over, particularly at Ryzen, some Pancrase, approaches like that. But they've been trucking along for the most part and doing very well. Pancrase and Deep and Ryzen, everyone I just mentioned right there, Deep Jules, creating a bunch of new stars that I'm very excited to see competing just going forward in the future. But no, man, I think that there's nothing to come back from. It's just going to get better and better once that Bellator wall is open again and working with other people and what have you. But looks good.
All right.
Optimism,
Good one
I
right
love
there.
it.
Look at that, Drake, all positive. All right, next up is Captain Credential himself, Mr. Jason Burgos. How can slap fighting break through to become the next big combat sport?
As long as Slap Fight Championship keeps doing the same thing they're doing, they do events within their means. They don't overstretch. They're not in the red financially. They're realistic. They're building a fan base first before they're trying to make big money. So as long as they keep doing what they're doing right now, they're on the right pace to at least be pretty big and profitable at some time. And look, they're on Fight TV now, and they're getting tons of views on YouTube. Doing pretty good.
All right. I also would recommend that they maintain the same commentary team. Good work there, buddy.
Thank you.
All
You're
right.
very nice. Sometimes.
It's the one nice thing I'm going to say to you this whole show.
All right, now the next question is from Mr. Duffy, and I feel like it's a relevant question given what he's been going through lately. How do you feel that MMA organizations have handled the COVID pandemic, and what do you think some of these organizations, UFC and whatnot, can do to improve where they are now?
I've covered a couple of cards now in the post-COVID era, and I've got to say that on site, the UFC's precautions are actually pretty solid and consistently followed. Having said that, I still picked up COVID at UFC 265, and so did Saul Solis probably. I literally shook hands with and hugged his two best fighters at that show, and a week later, Saul Solis was dead, and I was sick as a motherfucking dog. There's no safe way to do this. And it's the same kind of conversation we have about MMA in general. How safe can you make it? We're watching people take brain damage for our entertainment. This is just a short-term and very concentrated version of that. There's no way to do it. You can't put a literally global sport in a bubble. It's not going to be fully safe. The people involved they have a responsibility to minimize risk. That's all there really is to it. I wish I had a neater answer for that. But yeah, I feel like shit.
All right, let's get an exciting positive question.
You wrote the question, motherfucker.
I know.
Dark, real quick.
No, I'm happy with what that came out.
What an insult. God damn.
So, Mr. Walker.
Yes, sir.
Of all the I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons moments that you've experienced this year, what is your I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons, the biggest, most you're not surprised Mr. Falcons moment you've had in 2021?
Jeez. Let me go
Put
ahead.
him on the spot.
Dude, you know what? I think I'm just so jaded that nothing really genuinely surprises me anymore. Like, things have gotten so ridiculous. Things have gotten so stupid at times that it's really hard to rattle my cage at this point. Like, I want to say like some of the Tim Johnson and Fedor booking might be like the pinnacle of like, what the hell? Because it's just such a lost opportunity. But really, everything is so ridiculous. What are we doing? Like, I'm more surprised that I'm still doing this shit. That's what I'm more surprised about.
I was wrong about that one. Like, I was sure he was either going to go with Michael Chandler at UFC Black History Month or Michael Chandler like moving the goalposts on the vaccination.
That was this year.
Like, I would have taken Michael Chandler over the field if you just paused right there and asked me to bet.
Yeah. That was this year. Actually, yeah, Ben, you're correct. My concept of time is all blurred. Mm-hmm. Michael Chandler Black History Month has to be it, because that's so over the top stupid and insulting and just like tone deaf, where you just look at like everyone who sat at the conference table and decided that they were going to do this. Like, I want to go in that room and just slap everyone upside the head. And especially the brother that was probably in there that said, yeah, this is a good idea. I really want to slap him. That was fucking stupid. But All right.
You can still be surprised, Mr. Falcons.
Yeah, I can still be surprised. I guess I'm extraordinarily jaded, but I'm still somewhat a normal human being. Besides being abnormally sexy. Continue.
What can you do? Now, I guess in the interest of brevity, I'll give myself a question and I'll knock it out. And I guess my question for you, what letter grade would you give to the PFL season this year? And I'm sure we can have some conversation to have everybody get in there. PFL is striking out across the board, not just the whole delay thing, but the matchups aren't that scintillating. Rausch Manfio as a possible millionaire, and people still don't know who he is. Like this is a PFL thing. That the idea was that the tournament builds the stars. The tournament hasn't done anything. The people that were supposed to be the front runners lost, and there's nothing there for PFL to really hang its hat on, because they can say we built these stars all day, Kayla Harrisons and all whatnots. But at the end of this year, I am all with Pat that PFL is easily in the danger zone with how it's been carrying on. I cannot fathom how this organization operates as it does. I'm going to give some inside information. This is public information that can be found, so I'm not actually spilling behind the scenes information. PFL has a minimum salary that it offers its athletes. 10 and 10. 10,000 and 10 to show, 10 for win is the dollar amount that they paid a 1-1 fighter recently at an event. Where on earth is PFL getting this money? I have no idea. The disclosures and the war chest and the investments are so sketchy that we don't know. So I am going to give it a D- and say that the only reason why I'm giving it such a high grade is because there are still fights happening. And yeah, please. If I'm crazy, I want you to tell me I'm wrong. I'm
he
okay
hates
with
PFL more than Sam Alvey, I think. Damn.
No, I mean, I think
next year.
I can't disagree with you on a lot of that, Jay. I mean, we've heard rumors for a couple of years now. I can think back to at least one conversation I had with a particular member on this panel where it was like, yeah, we're not hearing good things from people in and around the organization, that they're in some serious trouble. But they keep making big moves. And unlike what Mr. Burgos said about Slap Fighting Championship and them just holding back because they need to build to a certain level first, PFL has kind of ignored all of that. Like, it wasn't that long ago that they were broadcasting out of like high school gymnasiums for a couple of their events, and it
with
looked
volleyball
like
going on in the other room.
Yeah, it looked like in between homeroom, like they would put on an event. To go from that to like this like multi-million-dollar smart cage to high level acquisitions like Rory McDonald and Fabricio Verdum and whatnot, it just seems like they're shooting from the stars and they can barely get up to the ceiling. Just not the smartest way to go about things.
Well, so here's the thing. I would say yes, but this kind of overlaps with my day job a little bit in consulting, where they are making all the right moves that they need to make to secure funding from VCs and from celebrities who don't know what they're doing and are putting money into it on the off chance that it becomes a big thing. This is every company that, think Lyft is a great one. Uber's probably one of the most famous ones. Peloton has finally kind of turned the corner a little bit, but like those three were like the unicorn masterpieces in 2019 of just losses upon losses upon losses upon where are you going with your business model? How do you ever turn this profitable? And it didn't matter because they could sell. WeWork, same thing. They were trying to sell themselves as a technology company. What? They're not a technology company. PFL has made the right moves and hired the right people to have that big, grand perception of look at how huge we are, look at all of our cool stats, look at everything we're doing with production value, look at where we've come, and we've got these brand, name value fighters like Verdum and Pettis and all these people, even if they aren't what they once were, suddenly they're coming our way. And there are far too many investors that don't know anything about it, but may have heard Pettis' name and would take a look at one PFL show and be like, oh, they're big time, and have to make some decision about where they're going to spend part of their PE money or VC money that they have. And they say, you know what, I'm a fund manager. Let's go ahead and roll the dice. And that's how it works. They're going all in on the big startup. Like, we will eventually turn the corner. Just keep giving us money. Look at what we've done. And they're securing funding. Their last round was $65 million in February. Like, it's all about having the right person to sell your product, even if your product is trash. So I think, they are in danger, but at the same time, they could still go on for years if people are willing to throw money at it.
But it has to be a bubble, right? Like in the other market terms.
No, I mean, Uber, I don't believe, has made a profit.
True.
It's been
true.
10 years,
Yeah,
9 or 10 years.
Apparently, Netflix is the same thing with them. Like, they haven't turned a profit, so
No,
yeah, it can keep going. Really,
if people keep giving you money, it's not a bubble.
Well, the ESPN deal, I think, is over at the end of this year. I think that's it. So that's going to be different. Hartley, hit me.
Well, Theranos is doing really well, right? That's a joke.
They're doing fantastic, Jason. I'm glad you brought that up.
I think Spotify is the other one that's also just had insane, it's like everybody, of course, knows about the whole Joe Rogan thing, but just ridiculous amount of funding. And I don't think they're even profitable yet. Yeah.
And more important than the Joe Rogan thing was the Joe Button thing from Spotify. That's one of my favorite stories of this year. But anyway, I digress. Let's keep things pushing here because I don't think we have a whole lot to say about this card because it is grossly lacking on name value. But we got Derek Brunson and Darren Till main event this Saturday. Any thoughts about that fight? Who do you think comes out on top? How do you think it plays out? What does it mean for the middleweight division?
Am I the only person that thinks that Darren Till is just wildly overrated?
No, not at all.
I mean, to the point that how is he headlining even a rough fight night card? Now, this is a fight night. This isn't on ESPN or any of those. This is a ESPN Plus, bury it, kind of do your thing. Look, he had, what's his best win? Cerrone, probably.
It's a robbery over Thompson.
Because it's not the Thompson, it's not Gastelum, because he lost those fights. Yeah. Like that's it's not, I don't understand how he is so high. I mean, like, this is a guy that could easily be like 15-6 and almost on your cut list, in terms of how he's presented himself. Instead, he's about to get knocked out by Derek Brunson. So there you go. That's how I'm feeling it.
Jay, you're forgetting though that he's funny and has an accent.
About that first part, though, well, let's talk about that.
I didn't say I thought he was funny.
I mean, that accent says a lot, though. I mean, they're looking for, Bisping Jr., and that's essentially why this is going on.
I was gonna say, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Maybe I'm missing somebody obvious, but is there anyone else who's a bigger British MMA star right now?
I can't think.
For instance, for the last, obviously Cyril Gane, that he, did a great job against Derek Lewis, and supposedly the number was 400,000 buys, which blows my mind. That doesn't make any sense. But I mean, we did a fight companion and tried to call like everyone in the country. I don't think it helped that, half those people are on this card or were planned for this London card before it got moved to Vegas. But I mean, like, everybody was just like, nah. And we only called, though. Like, we went through, like, everybody. And it was only, like, 20 people. You know what I mean? It's like the country is still starving for stars. And Arnold Allen is a big up-and-comer. We talked about him a little bit. I mean, there's a few guys that are in that range. But that's about it. And then, of course, Patty, there is a lot of hype around him to debut this weekend. And we'll see how that goes. But it's a far cry. It's Darren Till or bust at this point in terms of actual big stars. On the other end of that, I do have to agree there. I think Derek Brunson is living off the fumes of being Izzy's stepping stone and is still dealing with that, unfortunately. And the guys that he has beaten, it hasn't been the most exciting fight. Some of them have been exciting, but most of them, I think it's just failed to catch the audience in the way that you would. I don't know. I don't know what people are waiting for, but yeah, I've got Brunson in this one as well.
Side note, I don't know where you got that buy number for 265, but I don't think that's...
Dude, I actually was looking that up just 2 days ago. Is it not 400K?
No. Not what I've heard anyway. Nothing I feel confident saying, but the numbers that I've heard are far lower than that, like half.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Then I don't go crazy.
No, that's... Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right here. Based off the estimate, 400K buys. Who's this from? It's on a SureDog. Well, it's not a great source here. It's on a SureDog forum.
It's like
you can't take it
MMAsalaries.com.
say on the forum. Come on now.
MMAsalaries.com is garbage. It is
MMAsalaries.com is fictional. It's a fictional website.
Trash.
They literally make their information up.
Fair enough.
I've used most of my time on my old podcast crusading against them because they keep popping up and it makes me so mad.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people on social media just take their word as gospel truth and like, where are you? Like, they just like someone just makes these numbers up. It's totally ridiculous. And now I am not seeing anything in particular that has me excited. I mean, I see a few names that I enjoy watching. Julian Arosa. I enjoy his fights. Khalil Roundtree at his best is an exciting guy to watch. But aside from that, I don't really see any particular matches on this card that's standing out to me as a potential sleeper fight. If you see anything, now's your time.
Van Duffy has one.
I mean, Roundtree and Bugauskas could be, just because big light heavyweight dudes throwing some leather, but I wouldn't expect it to last very long, right? If it is good, it'd be kind of in a condensed amount of time. And Khalil Roundtree, we could just never trust the guy, unfortunately, to deliver. But generally, it's fun if he's getting finished or doing the finishing. So see how that one goes. But in terms of actual matchups, Morono, Zawada, I guess, but nothing really screams out at you. I'm more interested in seeing some fighters back, of course, the Patty debut will be interesting, but Tom Aspinall really sold me with just the way that he, beat Arlovsky. Of course, an Arlovsky win is take it for what it is at this stage, but Aspinall, the fact that he beat him the way he did, that impressed me a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back.
He choked him out. He choked on Arlovsky. You don't do that.
Only the second person.
Yeah, and the first one was what, Barnett?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Rojo coming back, kicking things off against Martinez. That's a pretty good fight.
Yeah, I was going to say that one is a sleeper fight for sure. Martinez versus Rojo should be a banger for No, that's probably the biggest one for me. Otherwise, it's and nothing else that Drake didn't just say. So,
well, then I have a question for you all to kind of ease us into the end. 10 fights on the card for now. I mean, visa issues and COVID.
Nine because Lipsky and Baum is off, right?
No, that's with that.
That's with that. Okay, got it.
They're 10. Is that the right number of fights that should be on a fight card? 10. Is that a good number? 12, 14, 16, or 10?
8 to 10.
Butter zone.
That's a loaded question because it all depends on pacing. How long is your broadcast? Is by
Let's get Jason's thoughts on this.
What do you do with
exactly it. You have 5 hours. Pack in as many fights as you want. Boom, go. That's really the question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you do what do you do with the displaced, roster? Then that would, inevitably have to be let go, I guess would be my question.
And they can bolster the rosters of other promotions, and we don't have this top heavy landscape that we're looking at now, where talent is unevenly matched across the board. So, not the worst case scenario at all. I think that's healthier for the sport. Now we do have 2 other major cards going on before our next show. So KSW 63. And 1 championship. I'm sure it's been taped. I'm sure this was recorded 3 years ago, and it's been in the vault. But anything out of those two fights, I mean, out of those two events that anyone wants to highlight as a potential good time to view here?
Oh man, I mean, I generally don't stay up to watch the one championship cards live because timing's a little
It's
brutal
not live
for me.
anyway, right?
Well, yeah, fair enough. When they show them, let's put it that way. But One in Power, I'm not missing that one, you guys. The atomweight tournament, the 115-pound atomweight tournament, the best tournament in the world according to somebody. And then Panda Zhang Jingnan is going to be back in the main event defending the title. Never miss the Panda. So for that one, I think I'll stay up. But you guys know I'm a little biased anyway for that card.
I think the best fight of the weekend isn't. I think the best fight of the weekend is not on UFC. It's not on One Championship because, well, first of all, because One Championship isn't this weekend. It was 3 years ago. Roberto Soldic is fighting RoboCop. I mean, a guy that has, the kind of talent that you go, what is he doing over there? Like his lone loss in the past 5 years. His only losses are to Drika Duplessis, who he knocked out in the rematch. Yaroslav Amosov, he took him to the razor, and we know how good he is. And some guy on the lower circuit when he was getting up there. RoboCop can crack, and Patrick Kinkle, he can get cracked. So I guess we'll know how it goes. But man, that Soldic guy, got to watch out for him.
Definitely. So I think unless we have any other thoughts we want to share before we wrap things up, I think this might be the best point to conclude the 100th episode of Unleashed. So big thank you to the guests on our panel, Pat, Jason the Lesser, Jason the Greater, Drake, and Kristen. Always a pleasure having you guys on. And of course, we want to thank the people who were not on the broadcast today, but that we've had a lot of guests. So just to name a few: John Morgan, Aaron Bronstetter, Matt Wells, Jose Youngs, Mike Jackson, Phoenix Carnivale. Like, we could just go on and on with some of the names that have made this program fun, made this program special. So want to thank all of you. Casey Lyden, like Oscar Willis, like, all the homies that have been on this show. So you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell more friends. So you can check out all of us everywhere from MMA On Point to The Scrap to mixedmartialarts.com to bjpin.com to Bloody Elbow to SureDog to whatever other 13 outlets that Drake works at. So stay beautiful, stay positive, take good care of your daughters so they're not crying and screaming on the microphone when you're trying to say the outro to your show, and stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.